Well, it's a very warm welcome once again to Kate and Shelley from Sunbeams. Hello.
Hello.
And welcome back to the studio. I love it when you guys come in.
Oh, good.
I like write a list of problems down and go, right there.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about Sunbeams, and today we're going to be having a look at establishing a good bedtime routine. Now, I'm very proud to say I've already managed to do this, so I'm very happy. How can Sunbeams help? How does this work within Sunbeams about establishing a good bedtime routine?
Well, some people will think, why are we talking about that? But it's actually really important for children's well-being and for their learning as well, you know, if they're tired. And also, children at Sunbeams sleep. So, you know, we have to establish a good routine within the nurseries as well of how they sleep when they're with us. And working very closely with parents in terms of, so we know what they're experiencing at home and how we can help, really. So, sort of today's talk is really about establishing some good bedtime routines, and we can give tips about what we do in Sunbeams, but it's really concentrating and not to forget the importance of that, a good bedtime routine, on child's well-being and education, and the, you know, whilst they're in nursery.
I think routine, as an adult, routine is very important, isn't it? So it's going to be doubly important for children as they're learning and growing. So how do we go about getting this routine into place?
Well, we're going to really separate it into two areas. We're going to talk about the very young child or the baby, and we're going to talk about the toddler and upwards, because they are quite different. So I'm just going to focus, being a health visitor, I'm going to focus on the very young child, and I'm just going to give you some top tips then of when to start with this routine, and then Shelley will talk about the toddler and onwards and how that's important. And it does change, and it's on an ongoing change as well. So really, my first sort of point is really, you know, start about 6 to 8 weeks. Now, you know, a lot of people bring them home from the hospital and think, right, got to get into it. You know, it is about don't start too early. So about 6 to 8 weeks about getting a routine is actually what we'd advise. Mm-hmm. And a calming bedtime routine that follows a predictable pattern gives consistency and reassurance. It helps the baby into the transition of sleep. So the first point, don't start a bedtime right away. Don't try to impose a sleep schedule on your newborn, and as soon as you bring them home from hospital. And babies really do sleep, as all of you will know. They should sleep a lot in the first few weeks. So again, you know, trying to establish the routine, it's very difficult because actually they're sleeping the majority of time. So it's probably a few weeks before you see any kind of pattern and before it emerges in your newborn's sleep. Point number 2, observe your baby's sleep tendencies. So try to get a sense of when your baby usually goes to sleep for the longest stretch of the night.
And every baby's different, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
There's no set times that a baby will go to sleep.
No, but you soon know about it when they're not sleeping during the night, and those sleepless nights. You know that it's hard work. So really, so once you've sort of got the longest period of time, you can start working with that. So start to time your bedtime routine in advance of that. So, for example, if your baby sleeps from 1 p.m. till 1 a.m, start shifting the bedtime routine. Starting the bedtime routine about 7:15 to 7:30. So again, it's looking at when your longest period of time is. Now, some parents will be saying they didn't have one, but it will start to get established. The third point is to start slowly. Slowly start to introduce the nighttime rituals that you want to put and to be part of the mix. Tried and tested routines include a soothing bath, a gentle baby massage, cuddling feed, reading, or singing lullabies. So those are some examples of what has been used and works. And
is that even from you say 6 to 8 weeks? Is it worth doing the reading and
absolutely,
just in a gentle voice, calm.
So it brings them to a relaxed state as well.
They're actually listening to your voice, and don't forget they know your voice from before they're born. So they've listened while they've been in utero, believe it or not. So they do hear sounds, and so it's calming to them to hear their parents' voice. So yes, you can even start that before your sleep routine. So that's important. The fourth one is try to master a drowsy baby drop-off. So try to put your sleepy baby down where they are still drowsy.
Right.
So, we all cuddle them off to sleep, but actually, but they're not actually at sleep. That's the best time to actually put them down. This way they get used to falling asleep on their own and not in your arms.
See, that's something we, myself and my wife, struggled with, because when we used to put him down, he'd wake up.
Yes,
straight away.
absolutely. Yeah.
Straight away.
Yeah.
So as a result of probably not putting him down when he was drowsy and putting him down when he was asleep.
Yeah.
Well, we all like a cuddle, don't we? That's the, it is, but it's not helping them as you're getting into this sleep, looking at the sleep, because they do startle.
Yes.
That's a normal reflex for a baby as you put them down, is to startle. So that eventually goes, you'll be pleased to know, the startling reflex, it gets less and less, but certainly it's an inbuilt thing. Mm-hmm. So if you can put them down, it's also teaching them the pattern of going to sleep themselves, which I'll talk about in a minute. Mm-hmm. In this way, like I've just said, they're actually learning to put themselves to sleep, which sounds a bit odd, but we all have to learn that. And they'll begin, if they wake up in the middle of the night, then they already then have the learning how to put themselves back to sleep. So that's why it's important.
Yeah, so I mean, with what we did, we ended up kind of rocking him to sleep through the night. So you can, if you do this right, and if you get the drowsiness right, you shouldn't have to do that as much.
No,
right.
because they're learning.
Yeah, they're doing it themselves.
They're almost...
And it's the child creating a routine.
Yeah.
It is, and that's...
Yeah. And, through all these talks, we've always talked about this magic thing about be consistent. Mm-hmm. And that's point number 5. Be consistent. I wish, I got a medal for how many times. And being a mum myself, I know it's not easy, it really isn't. And especially when you're tired and all the rest of it. But it's important to try and preserve your routine. You've really thought about your routine, what you're going to do, cuddles, stories, a little bit. It's really important to really be consistent with that. And it doesn't need to be long, which we'll talk about in a bit. It's not going to happen overnight. It's like everything else. It will take a while for the transition into this routine, for the baby to get used to it. But do try, if you can, to stick to it, because that will help. And point number 6, which is my last point, is adapting the bedtime routine if needed, because it will change. Even though we said be consistent, you've also got to watch your child and how it's growing and how it's changing. And that's why Shelley in a minute will talk about the toddler, because it is different. Obviously their needs for sleep will get less and less. Be conscious of the growing baby's changing needs as time goes on. Bath time may not be required every night. And earlier snacks may be needed to add for hungrier babies, if you've got a baby that is hungrier. I used to think as a health visitor, and what we look at Sunbeams is in terms of the weight of the baby when it's born. I mean, obviously the capacity of their tummy is different. Yeah. So you do get, again, it's about every child is individual, but that's what we're talking about. You may have a hungrier baby, so you may need to look at giving them something before they go off to sleep.
It's always been aware, isn't it, of these things like feeding and kind of changing things to how you need to do.
And a hungry baby will not sleep. Yeah. It just won't. Because it's a normal, natural instinct, isn't it, to ask for food. It's a little bit of trial and error along the way, but you can figure out a good bedtime routine and to work with your baby. What we do when young babies come to Sunbeams, and they do, we have quite young babies at Sunbeams, is very much work with the parents on a day-to basis and say, where are we up to? And it changes, so constantly talking, and they do very detailed entry records, but equally it's about, right, where are we now? What stage are we at now? And our baby suite is very, very exclusive, very small, and very much talking to parents on a regular basis about the sleep patterns and where we're up to.
So at Sunbeams, you really do practice what you preach, really. You're telling us all this information. This is what you do at Sunbeams.
It is, yes. And people think we don't get young babies. We do.
Yeah. And it's not just one young baby. It could be 9 young babies in a room that were, and when they're in a routine, it's fantastic, and we get them all off to sleep at sometimes at the same time, and parents walk in and say, "How have you done that?"
It's a miracle. Yeah.
I mean, I have to
routine.
say,
It's routine and consistency.
9 babies to parents would think, oh, that's a lot of babies. But, we have a lot of staff that are working very individual, and we never take more than 9 babies. And often, we won't have as many as 9 babies, but it is a very specialist unit at Sunbeams. So, that's... 9 babies, people think, oh, yeah, but we do work with each child individually and each parent individually.
Now, from baby up to toddler, it
Yes.
goes so quickly. And I'm looking at my 2.5-year-old. I look at him now, and it just thinks he's a little comedian now. But I remember holding him in my arms, and little pictures of him all around the house.
Yeah.
Sleep patterns continually changing, obviously. So toddlers, how do we get a toddler's routine? How do you do it at Sunbeams?
So for toddler, we're talking about children aged between maybe 2 and 4 years of age. It's worth bearing in mind, children spend about 40% of their time actually asleep, and it is so vital for the mental and the physical development of the child. And we all know that when children don't get enough sleep, their emotions are absolutely all over the place. It's so difficult to control their emotions, and we've all been there. And it is vital that we get maybe 11 to 12 hours sleep a day out of our toddler. So the recommended bedtime should be between maybe 6:30 and 7:30 on an evening, and a good bedtime routine should last for no longer really than half an hour when you're getting them off to bed on a night. So the first tip for your toddler's routine would be to encourage calm time. So this is what you want to be doing at the very beginning of your routine, is have calm time before the bedtime routine starts. Activities like before with the baby, it's reading and quiet play and anything calm, rather than leaping about an action game,
Jumping off the sofa,
the TV on and it's Power Rangers, it's calm, quiet game. And that's what we do at Sunbeams. A lot of our children tend to have a sleep in an afternoon after lunch. Lunch is a nice, peaceful, calm, social time. And then after lunch, we'll have a story. And the children are all drowsy, the lights are dimmed, it's cosy, it's comforting. And that's it. They're gone.
and they're out for the count.
It's amazing. You actually can't, people will walk in when they come to look at Sunbeams, and they'll think, how have you got all those children asleep? Well, I can assure you, it's because you're creating that environment. If children don't want to sleep, they don't have to sleep, and there's other activities going on for them, quiet, and they do have an opportunity to rest at other times during the day, not just at that time. We have comfy things that if they want to take themselves off and have a little relax, they can.
It just seems like such common sense as well, though, the setting, calming them down, it does seem like common sense. But when you're maybe dealing with an irate child at the end of the day, it can be hard. But it's just these top tips. And you've got the great atmosphere as well at Sunbeams when you need to rest.
It is looking at the environment, if it's a quiet environment and a calm environment, that goes over to the child. They will then become calm, and whereas if they are upset and the telly's on and there's loads going on around them, they're going to be fraught and pick up on that. So point number 2 is to kind of create a starting point. So it's creating a starting point for your child's routine, and that could be just starting off with a relaxing bath or a small glass of warm milk and a little snack before bed. If you start the routine right, bedtime, straight away you get defiance. No, they don't want to go to bed. But if it's part of their routine that they know, right, I have my bath, then I have a glass of milk, and then I go into bed, without you actually having to say those words, bedtime, they know this is going to be their routine. So point 3 is use prompts and gentle reminders. So as you're going through your routine, it's just gentle reminders of what's coming next. So, right, you've had your bath, so when you've had your bath, we're going to put your jammies on. Then when they put the pyjamas on, right, now we're going to brush our teeth. And then when they brush their teeth, get into bed and choose a story. It's not, avoid using things like, right, 5 more minutes and then it's bedtime. They've not got a clue about time. Time means nothing to children. Routine or what's coming next. If the child knows what's coming next, it just calms the situation straight away. So point number 4 is to create a calm atmosphere in the bedroom. So in bed, keep the lights low, read the story in a calm, quiet voice. Try to avoid choosing a story that's maybe jumpy, loud, even scary. You know, it's a nice, peaceful, even if it's like a lullaby story type thing, it's just creating that calm atmosphere. Have a little dimmer light or a little bedside lamp for them. Point number 5 is make it simple. You know, once you've read the story, you give them a kiss, you give them a cuddle, you say good night, and you leave. Keep it brief. Keep the good night brief. Don't, Mummy's going now. Mummy's going. You're going to be fine. You don't need that. It's just you're just playing to them then, in a sense. Quick kiss, good night, cuddle, and off you go. And try not to come back even if the child calls for you. And it does sound harsh, but again, you're then getting into that routine that if they call for you, you'll come back, and they'll call for you again, and you'll go back. And they know, and then that becomes their routine. You can be your worst enemy in creating a bad routine in a sense. So it's try and be strict straight away in that, and that's it really with a toddler routine. It's just making it simple and quick. Goodbyes
And do you know what's really funny, and I don't know if you found this as well, but if you break the routine in some way, I get reminded.
That's good. That's a good routine.
Yeah. So, for example, no, it sounds really bad now, but sometimes you just forget. But it's like, right, it's time to settle down now. Daddy, teeth, and like you remind me because you've got used to it.
That's good.
But all of this again, you just practice this at Sunbeams, don't you? Like you said, you have parents walk in on tours and
and calm, and you know, and it's. But what I would say is that's in the ideal world. You know, some children will have a problem with sleep, and that's when you need to involve the health professionals. You know, you need to go and see your health visitor, your GP and your health visitor, and sort of. So it's kind of being aware of that. You know, this is a lovely ideal scenario that everything's going to go swimmingly, but sometimes it doesn't. And like you say, if the child's unwell, if there's a break in routine, you know, there will have periods where you've really got a very good bedtime, and then it's upskittled when you go on holiday or something changes, and then you've almost got to start as soon as you can again of actually trying to get them back into you know, the good kind of routine that you want, really. But kind of don't be hard on yourself, you know, because there will be times when it does go out of the window, and you do find when children are poorly that sometimes it does really upset them, with high temperatures or whatever. So, you know, that's just to be mindful. But again, at Sunbeams, it's sort of realising that we sometimes have sleep disturbances with toddlers when they've been on holiday and they come back. So this time of year for us, you know, because they have broke the routine, and they, you know, during the day or whatever. So it's those sort of things. So just be mindful.
Well, if people want to come down and speak to you about Sunbeams as well, what do they need to do? They just get in touch on the website? Can they call you? Or
they can access our emails via the website, or they can access our phone number on our website at sunbeamsdaynursery.com. Give us a call, drop us an email. It's absolutely fine.
And the other thing we would say as well is we encourage parents, like we've talked about before, choosing a nursery to actually, you don't have to have a set time to come and look at Sunbeams. You know, there's nothing to hide. You know, you just can literally turn up. You know,
that's really good to know.
You know, you don't have to make a formal appointment. Although if you want to, that's fine as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for those brilliant tips that I'm sure many people will use, and we look forward to speaking to you on the next show.
Lovely. Thank you.
Very much.